In this video, we're going to cover how to turn an OD diameter to a shoulder. For this video, we're going to be turning this 875 diameter to 4.5. We're going to be turning this 700 thou diameter to 0.5 plus 375, so 700 thou diameter to 875. And we're also going to turn this 1/2 inch diameter shoulder to a 1/2 inch, or just under 1/2 inch here. For my 4.5 in the video, I did use 4.25 or 4.5 interchangeably, but the diameter we're hitting is 4.5. Now, whenever I'm coming up to a size, so let's say my 875, I never want to rough it out right to that size. So if my material is at, let's say, 1 inch, what I want to do is I want to rough it down in as few cuts as possible to about 925 thou. And then from there, I'm going to take a semi-finished cut to 900 thou diameter, and then a finishing cut to my 875 diameter. So semi-finish and then finish. If I have a tight tolerance, I just want to make sure I'm going to hit that size and not go past it. So if I'm roughing, taking a lot of material, I'm not going to have the precision that I want to hit this 875 diameter.
So now we're going to talk about turning a diameter up to a shoulder. I'm going to show you 3 ways in this video on 3 different diameters, how I can hit a length in my Z. The first way is going to be just with my hand wheel. Then I'm going to use a dial, a sticky back dial, and then a digital readout. If your machine has one, you can use the digital readout. If not, you can use the 2 other methods. The first method that I'm going to show you is using my hand wheel on my machine. If I look at my machine, the first way I'm going to do it is with this hand wheel right here. I want to be aware of the backlash in here, so that's this play that I see here without my carriage actually moving at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just touch the face of my workpiece like so. I'm going to keep a little bit of pressure on here, and then what I'm going to do, okay, so I have a little bit of pressure on the face. Again, I have like a thumb screw right here. So other machines might have a friction collet, but I'm going to spin this to 0 and line up the 0 here. What I want to take note of is each line is 500 or 5 thou, and a full rotation is 800 thou here. So I see 750, 800. If I have a very accurate tolerance I need to hit, I don't want to use this method right here, because I can only be as accurate as about 5 thou. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to wheel this over to 4.5 inches, which is my longest diameter. Okay, so 1 full rotation is 800 thou. Then I have 1.6, and I'm just going to move it all the way over until I'm at 4.5. And I always like to do just a quick check about where I'm at in terms of my 4.25. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn this on here, and I'm just going to just make a ever so slight mark into my workpiece, and I'm going to use a pair of calipers and make sure that I'm at my 4.25. So if I look here, I'm at my 4.25, so I know I am good to go. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to set a stop. So on the previous video, I just did it by eye, but that's not going to cut out when I'm machining here. So what I have here is I have a sticky back dial. I have no preload on it, and all I'm going to do is I have 0 set here. I'm going to put this against the ways of my machine, and I'm just going to push this in ever so slightly until it does 1 full rotation. So what that does is this gives me a start or an end point. So it doesn't matter where I move, as long as I come one full rotation past the 0, I know my tool is going to be stopping in the same spot every time. So as you can see here, I have my dial right here, and I have the start point of my tool right here. Now I'm going to start to take some cuts. I know if I just do a quick measurement, I know my diameter is roughly, at about 950 thou, and I'm aiming for 875 thou. All right, so now I'm gonna turn this diameter. I'm just gonna take a nice light 25 thou-ish skim cut, and I'm gonna keep an eye on my dial over here, and just keep an eye on that as to where I stop it. So I'm gonna just turn this on. I'm gonna touch off my diameter like I normally do. I'm going to now set the 0 on my cross slide right here. So I go 0. I'm taking my first 25 thou cut. And I'm going to take my cut, keeping an eye on the dial there. I'm going to watch this dial, and when I get close to that line, I'm going to shut it off. Okay, as soon as I start to see movement, I shut it off, I bring it to the 0, and then I can wheel it back. Again, I'm not super concerned with that surface that's left on here. Now, when I have such a long diameter here, or a long distance, I'm just going to measure where the diameter will actually live. The rest of this is being turned away, so I'm not super concerned about what it's measuring here. What I want to measure is right here. So if I look, I have about 922. So I have, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a 22 thou cut and then a 25 thou cut to get it to my diameter. And I'm going to slow my RPM down because I am finishing now. All right, so I've slowed my RPM down. I'm going to take my first finishing cut. I engage. And again, this cut's going to go a lot slower since I have my RPM slowed down quite a bit. Again, watching my 0, as soon as I start to see any contact on my dial here, I'm just going to shut it down, feed it to the 0 by hand. I really want to be careful with these chips here, these long stringy chips. There's nothing I can do since I'm finishing, but we want to make sure those chips are being broken. And at the end of this cut, I want to clear all of these chips away so it doesn't wrap around and cause a bird's nest around my part. Okay, so I'm getting ready. I'm watching my dial there. As soon as I start to see any movement on this dial, I'm going to shut it down. So I see movement, and I'm just going to feed it to the 0 by hand there. So I have 0. And I'm just going to drag this back across. Again, I never want to grab these chips by hand, so I'm just going to use the chuck key and just kind of knock everything clear and out of the way. And then I'm going to take a measurement. And if I look, I have about exactly, I'm at right at 900 thou, so I have 25 thou to come off. All right, I'm ready to take that 25 thou cut now. And again, this is that 4.5-inch distance and a 875 thou diameter. And this is my last cut to get it right to my 875. Again, I'm watching my 0 here. And I'm just going to bring that out. And I'm going to give this dimension and measurement. So if I look, bang on 875 thou. So that's the first method using my hand wheel. The second method I'm going to do is just use a sticky back dial, and I'm going to touch off the face of my workpiece. So I'm going to just move this over. I'm going to touch off like I did before. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to put my sticky back dial all the way on the back of my machine right here. So if I look, I'm touching the face here, and I have my sticky back or mag base face back dial here. And this next distance that I have is 875 by a 700 thou diameter. Each one of these lines is 1 thou. So what I can do is I can just go 8 full rotations plus 75 thou. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 25, 50, 75 here. So now I know my tool is 875 thou away from the face of my piece. So with that being set, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to again plunge in just with my cutter ever so slightly and give it a quick measure. So I'm just going to do a double check here. I'm just going to feed it in, touch, put my machine in neutral, and I'm just going to give this a quick measurement here, and I'm at 875, so I know I counted everything correctly. Again, now I'm going to set the same stop with the sticky back dial. So again, 0 on the preload. There's nothing on here. I'm at 0. I mount it right here, and I'm just going to push it 1 full rotation. So now I can have somewhere to stop. So whenever I move, once I do 1 full rotation, my tool is always going to be at 875. So now I can start turning this diameter down. I'm going to bump my feed back up for a roughing. Okay, I have my roughing feed rate set. I'm going to turn this back on. Again, I'm going to touch my diameter here. I'm going to reset my 0 right here. And I'm just going to do, I know my diameter is at 875. I need to take it to 700 thou. So I can take a good 100 thou cut on this cut. We can take significant cuts on these machines. I'm talking 1/4 of an inch sometimes if you have a big rigid machine. But for this case, we just want to go nice and slow. This is our first project. So we're not going to get too rowdy with my depth of cut and my feed rates. I'm at about 10 thou feed rate right now. So I have my 0 set. I'm taking 100 thou here. So this is going to take me from 875 to 775. Again, I am going to stop it on the 0. And I'm just going to drag it back. I'm going to take a measurement. I have about 772-ish to come off. Or sorry, I'm at 772. I'm aiming for 700 thou. My tolerance on this is 700 thou minus 10 thou. So it can be between 700 thou and 690. I'm going to aim right for the middle of that. So I'm going to slow my feed rate back down to my finishing feed rate, and I have about 75-ish thou to come off, and I'm going to take that in 2 cuts, so 37.5, 37.5. Slowing this down to my finishing feed, which is about 5 thou, and I'm going to take my first cut here. Again, I just re-zeroed my compound rest, and I'm going to move it now, my 37.5 thou. And again, keeping an eye on my zero here. So this is a lot slower of a cut. I'm watching my zero. I go to my zero and I wind it back here. Put my machine in neutral. If I look, I'm at 36.5 here. So if I take another 37.5, I'll be near the top of my tolerance, but I'll still be within size here. So I'm going to do that now. I put it in gear first. So again, I'm taking about another 38-ish thou here. I have a tolerance to play with. As long as I'm within that tolerance, I don't care if I'm at the top or if I'm at the bottom. That's a piece of advice I can give you. If you're on size, you're on size. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about getting right in the middle of your tolerance. If you're in the tolerance, your part's good. So I have this cut right here. And I'm just going to take a measurement right here. And I am just under my 700 thou, okay, 699. I'm on size, so I'm going to leave it there. This is called a digital readout. If I don't have one of these digital readouts, I can just use the sticky back dial or the meg back dial, and it's just as accurate once you get enough practice. I can hit 0 here, and all I'm going to do, my next diameter is about 500 thou by 500 thou. So what I can do is I can set my 0, and I can just move this over 500 thou. So I'm at 500 thou here on my bottom one, and I've moved 500 thou here. So all I'm going to do, again, I always want to double check to make sure I counted everything right. I'm going to come in, I'm going to touch, and I'm going to give it a quick measurement here. I'm at 500 thou, so I know I am good to go. So I know I'm at about 699, so I have about 200 thou to come off, and I'm just going to be looking at my DRO on where to stop for this. So I'm going to take a 100 thou cut, or let's take 150 thou, so you can see the chip, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a 25 thou finishing cut. So we're getting going here. I touch, I'm setting my 0, and this is my 150. I'm engaging. So my machine can take this no issues at all. I'm going to take a measurement. So if I look here, I'm at, it took a little bit more, it took about 5 thou more than I wanted. So I'm going to take this 45 thou, I'm going to take 22.5 and 22.5. If you wanted to, you could also just take 23 and 22, but I like to just be right in the middle there. So again, I'll just show you my cross slide here again. I have my 22.5. I'm going to take my second 22.5 thou cut to get me to 45. I'm going to take my cut here. So I'm a little bit big here, so about 1 thou, but I'm on size here. I have my tolerance. So that is 3 ways I can turn a diameter to a shoulder. I kind of have a little bit of a gummy surface here. We're going to talk about how to, in a later video, on how to just do a nice light finishing so I can clean everything up without taking too much off of the diameter. Thanks for watching.